I'm Brett Hayworth, and welcome to What's a Frequency, our weekly show on Siouxland Public Media. This What's a Frequency show is devoted to a mural of rock and pop music performers that originally were displayed in a record shop on Sioux City's west side, then moved around to a few other places. Now that mural is an exhibit at the downtown Sioux City Public Museum, showcasing Uncle John's ceiling mural by Paul Chelstad. For the first time visitors have, and this is from the museum website, for the first time visitors have the rare opportunity to experience the full mural up close, removed from its original ceiling setting and displayed in its entirety at the museum's gallery. So I'm recording this show standing in the museum to explain how this exhibit came to be. Uncle John's Records and Tapes for years was Sioux City's premier independent record store. It was founded in 1972 by friends Mike Duncan and Bob Smith, and the original shop was located at 1418 West 3rd Street and became a cultural touchstone for generations of music lovers. Again, reading more from the museum website, in 1978, Duncan commissioned local artist Paul Chelstad to paint a large ceiling mural for Uncle John's that depicted the entire history of recorded music, from Thomas Edison's invention of the phonograph in 1877 up to the rock heroes of the late 1970s. There are jazz-era murals and there are rock-era murals. And to talk about all this, our guests are indeed Paul Chelstad, the artist who made the mural that hung on Uncle John's ceiling, Gia Emery, who worked at Uncle John's back in the day, and museum director Steve Hansen, who can tell the story of how the murals came to the museum, where they will be through October 5th as part of the 4-month run of the exhibit. So thank you all for your time here. Thank you all for coming today. And I want to start, and I guess I should say one more thing to preface this show. I understand that this show, it's airing for people who are listening to it on radio, on podcasts, and on YouTube. And we're describing really interesting visuals, so we'll try to use rich description as we talk about some of these things that we're so we can bring it to life for you here. And Paul, since you made the mural several decades ago, how do you feel today standing and seeing all this?
It keeps coming up. No, I can't believe this. I think it's the third time this has been up at the museum, and it's amazing that I love that they keep showing it, and it's always fun to see, and it was a fun period doing it.
And over your shoulder, I've known you for a few years. Right there it's a black and white of you working in 1978, I think it is, in your studio.
Yes, it was a huge studio across from the Diving Elk, and it used to be the call terminal building. And it was like the biggest studio I've ever seen. I think it was huge. This is 22 4x8 foot panels, and it took up like a little corner in this space. It was incredible.
We encourage people to come see this. So basically all the murals are on 4 sides of exhibits here, and there are lots. So and there's lots of color. There's some are black and white, and then there's lots of yellows, blues, and reds. But just tell me, if you can take me, was it Mike that approached you, Paul, and tell me what the concept was, and then how did you decide, did he tell you I want this, and this, or did he kind of leave it up to you?
It was a group project. Everybody in the store had input, I think, into who would be in it, because they knew a lot more about music than I did. And then I did research at the museum, at the library, and all the photos I could find, I dug them up. And it's some version of popular recorded music till the late 70s.
So I was going to ask if these are your favorite artists, but you said it was collaborative, and so it was a bunch of you so it was you and Mike and who else?
Ray McAvoy, Kathy McClarty was there. I think she was doing the books, though. But, whoever was working there at the time, I'm sure everybody had something to, if they had a favorite thing, I'm sure it's on here.
Did you like the concept? Did they need to twist your arm, or did you want to do it pretty much as soon as you heard it?
No, I loved it. I think I helped develop it. And I did 2 layouts that are at the museum somewhere that I worked from. It looks just like the layouts I came up with.
So you're pleased, you liked, this is how I want to do it, and then bringing it to fruition, you feel good about how it all came about.
Right. No, I couldn't be happier. And one panel disappeared, and part of it reappeared recently at the Orpheum in the control room. And so I redid that the last time the show was up.
And how much, months, years, weeks, like how long, from start to finish, roughly?
It took 1.5 years, and Mike would come over to the studio and go, "When's it gonna be done?" He was he was a blast, and he'd check it out and then go away frustrated and be another 6 months.
And this wasn't all you were doing. I mean, you had other things that you were doing in your studio, I presume, correct?
Yes, but this was the main thing. It was the major focus, and like people had come over. Dave West had a construction company next door, and everybody'd come over and party after work, and I'd be painting while they'd be sitting around. It was a great atmosphere to do it in, and I got all of album on everybody I was painting, at least one, and I could listen to the music of whoever I was painting while I was painting. That was a lot of fun, and what an access to music to be able to come up with everybody's music.
And with Gia and Steve Hansen being here, Gia, I don't know if you remember, if you can cite precise years, but what years did you work at Uncle John's? And maybe you probably went there before you worked there, but just tell, when did you work there? And do you recall how old you were when you first saw this?
I was probably 13 or 12. Yeah, Paul and I were thinking, well, if I collaborated ever with Paul, I would have been 8. So I was not there at that time. But I am thinking my first time at Uncle John's, I was probably 12. And then I had asked for a job. I had begged for a job. And they had found out that I was only 13, thinking I was 16. And Mike had decided, well, I can't very well put you on payroll. And I said, well, you can just pay me with vinyl. And so I worked out a pretty good deal with him.
For some people, that would be a fantastic deal. So you wanted that deal, and that's what had happened.
I had a great record collection. I still have the records, actually. So absolutely Paul's work. And I didn't know who the artist was. Funny enough, Paul, I bet you I had met you then and not even put that together because I'm a kid spinning records and I was playing punk rock at the time, most of the time. But I did get a good education because of Paul's murals. So murals, the sounds, obviously the sound, there was always great music playing, and it was welcoming enough that you could ask whoever was back behind the counter, what is this playing, and there it was.
Thank you, Gia Emery. And now for you, Steve Hansen. Again, if you could, I don't know how much you went to Uncle John's, but if I'm guessing at some point you did it. Any first impressions? Do you remember seeing this, whatever age you would have been, any thoughts on the exhibit and how notable it was, I guess, for a record store to have this?
Yeah, well, when we had the chance to get this for the museum, it really stoked memories because I grew up in a small town, Anthony, Iowa. You couldn't buy records in Anthony, Iowa. You had to come to Sioux City. No internet at the time. We would hear this story about this place out on the west side, which the west side seemed pretty exotic. Coming from a small town, you're not warned not to go to the west side. And of course, that was a chance to get out there and do it. But so you might skip school and come to Sioux City. So the whole thing was like an adventure, right? So you'd come in. You go in the first time, I don't know if I remember the first time going to Uncle John's, but you go in, like you said, the sounds, the sights, and then I don't recall the mural being there the first couple of times there, but then when you did just craning your neck up and looking and trying to figure out who's who and asking questions, I didn't know who everybody was, but and whoever was helping at the time, whether it was Mike and that was a whole other story about just seeing Mike, who is this guy over there, hippie or something, you didn't know,
He was a beatnik.
Yeah, exactly. And he'd have the same question about teenage boys. Why are you in here? Are you here to steal something or something, But there's another story there. Mike actually kicked me out one time. But so anyway, it was just fun that, as Gia said, the sights, and at some point you're walking through the head shop, what we thought was a head shop, but Lenny Zero's or whatever it might have been called at the time, and you're going by.
It was a plant store. It was.
That happened. Like I said, once we got the chance to go over to Dave's place and pick up the murals, and you see them, it's like, oh yeah, that's what I remember. That's pretty doggone cool.
Thank you. Then the voice you just heard there was Steve Hansen. Our guests for this episode of What's a Frequency, we're at the Sioux City Public Museum. There's a special mural that will be here for 4 months through October 5th. on the Uncle John ceiling art. It's a history of rock and pop music going back many years that Paul Chelstad did. So my guests are Paul Chelstad, who's here, Gia Emery, who worked at Uncle John's back in the day, and then Museum Director Steve Hansen. Based on what you just said, Steve, about craning up and looking at your neck. So I don't know who is best to, but how did it end up on the ceiling? Like, why was that the place that it went? So Paul, go ahead.
I finished it in, I can't remember what month, but I think like the fall. And the construction company next door, those guys put it up, and I made them wear white cotton, like, what do you call the gloves at the museum? White cotton gloves. And it was a riot. It was so funny. And of course, it ended up fingerprinted, and I had to touch everything up anyway. But it was, what a hoot. And they did a great job. I can't imagine putting that up.
So why? I guess my question is, why the ceiling? Why not just the regular walls? Was some of it on just regular side walls, or not necessarily?
It had been a parachute.
I would say that the reason why is the space was limited. We had very limited space for all of the records that he wanted to, sell. And on the ceiling would have been common sense for him, but
You also had other posters and things on the walls. I mean, as I remember, the record bins would come up above waist high. Yeah. And then you had things, either local bands that were playing elsewhere, as I recall anyway. So I always thought the ceiling was a natural fit for it. It was a pretty cool thing. And there were some in the front windows, too, later.
And that voice was Steve Hansen. So, again, we're at the Sioux City Public Museum for the many, many murals that are on assembled or portrayed on 4 separate walls. And before we recorded, Gia and Paul, like, just looking, and you were, so I just want to walk down and I want you to maybe kind of just narrate thoughts that come to you for maybe working on this, or if you I like this artist or anything. But do you guys, so let's walk and talk here for a second. So let's head down here. So okay, so I want to do this Beatles first because that's my number one group. So yeah, go ahead, Paul.
No, it looks like I finger painted what they're standing on. I don't know what that was about, but no, that's a classic shot of when they first came to the United States. I think they were they in Miami or New York?
It's either New York or Miami. So yeah, this is like they're just arriving from a Pan Am flight.
Yeah, no, but I love that picture, and I think I did pretty good.
So this one has more color than some of them. So why did you make that choice?
Oh, it would have been pretty boring if I hadn't. I was really into red, yellow, and blue. And I had done a series of paintings that were all red, yellow, and blue of realistic things. So it was a carryover from those.
If we were to just walk down, go ahead, Gia.
I always thought about this, and I did put a lot of thought into it when I worked there because I was so visually stimulated, right? I'm a painter now. And I think about it in the electric imagery. So going into acid rock, even though the Beatles were definitely not that. But if you notice, once you got into that, look at the bright colors. I know this is Funkadelic, right? Yes. Do you think? Yeah.
Oh,
Parliament? Is that Parliament?
And I don't know, I just think about that, and I think about Kiss. Look at all of the colors came alive when the music changed a bit. That's the way it looks like to me. But you know what blows me away that I didn't know until today, Paul? Paul, you are a stencil artist, and this is not stencil work.
I didn't start stencils, which these would be perfect for that, but I didn't start them until I moved to New York about 3 years later.
And if you go to the Sioux City Public Museum website, again, this exhibit runs for 4 months through October 5th. There's a listing of most everyone who's here. But I want to do I don't know if this is a quiz necessarily, but I'm going to try to name the ones that I can name. And I know there's a few that I don't know. And maybe you guys correct me. But so on this wall, I guess I'm seeing Patti Smith, Debbie Harry, Kiss. I can't tell if that's Donna Summer or someone else. Right. Elton John. And from there, I got nothing. So
Anderson, Roberta Flack, and Bowie, did you say that? Lou Reed. And that's the panel that I had to repaint. Mike Duncan on bass, and that looks like Lionel Hampton if he did drums. He's over there, too. and Vi Red, who is a female saxophone player that I love. I wanted her in there.
So I like the placement of Brian Eno and David Bowie, because I think Eno produced a bunch of his albums, if I remember right. Tell me about, so Mike Duncan, him playing a stand-up bass. So he was
That was in my imagination.
Okay, so that wasn't a thing that actually happened.
And he was on the outside of the store holding a camel because he smoked camels.
Okay, so let's go look on the other side. Let me try again here. Boy, maybe Sam Cooke. I'm probably wrong. The Supremes, Ray Charles, the Beatles. Not sure there. I think, Gia, you said maybe Funkadelic or Parliament. Jimi Hendrix, and then Mick Jagger down the end. So I'll let you fill in the ones that I don't have, Gia.
This is The Who, Grace Slick, Odetta. Our Jimmy is so great. And then Mick Jagger, of course. Stones.
I guess the rest of the Stones are in the background there. Yeah.
What did Sly look like? I have no idea what Sly.
I don't think that's Sly.
And this is a huge figure, but it's just he looked like the period. He was nobody that is well known. I just thought he captured that feeling.
So down here is Janis, Stevie Wonder, and Neil Young. And then when we go back and look at Patti Smith, his image of her I was always interested in, and I didn't know who Patti Smith was until I asked my friend Ray who that cool image was. And it's kind of cool, for the age that I was at, I was turned on to Patti Smith because of Chelstad. And even though we probably would have had that time anyway, just sitting and listening because he loves Patti Smith, but she's one of my favorites. And
so she has the iconic album, Horses.
So that day, Ray, we played Horses. I remember the day because I said, who is this? I knew who Debbie Harry was.
Before we go to the other side, so let's start with you, Gia, and then Paul. Do you have a favorite one that of all the ones that are of all of these likenesses that Paul did?
Do I have a favorite image? I love all of it. I love every image. Everybody should come and see this exhibit. It really, really was the essence of Uncle John's.
How about you, Paul? Before we go to the other side, anyone that, I don't know if I asked your favorite. Was there one that was the hardest to put together? I don't know if that comes to you as you're sitting here conjuring, but thinking back on
it. Nothing stands out, but I put in some friends from New Orleans who had like a 50s revival thing, and I just like that because it's a personal connection to it's this corner and then around. Johnny Dream and Vince Vance and the Valiants was the name of the group. And I just like the connection with that. Nobody will know who they are.
Okay, so on this side we have some more rock, and then is this more the jazz murals? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's Thomas Edison, and it goes into cakewalk music and jazz, and somehow ends up with Xavier Cugat.
Can you, for me and for those who don't know, can you explain cakewalk music?
Oh, it's like old early 1900s black-oriented music that's you could dance to. It was just beautiful, ragtimey. Scott Joplin did a lot of it, and it was just nice old music.
And why was it important not to just have rock, but to also show some R&B, some soul, going back into all that?
To show where it was coming from, I guess, because it didn't just happen. And there's a lot of 40s stuff somewhere. Here's 50s. Oh, that's Guy Lombardo, who, kids have no idea who that is.
So thank you. And again, the voice you just heard there was Paul Chelstad. He is the artist who made these murals that are now at the Sioux City Public Museum. And we're back for this one more segment here at What's the Frequency for this weekly show. We're at the Sioux City Public Museum. There is the murals that were at the Uncle John's record store. I guess it's Uncle John's record store and tapes, which maybe shows you the vintage of. I forgot that tapes was in the name back in the day. But we're back for this show on this exhibit of all these murals that artist Paul Chelstad made. They're now at the Sioux City Public Museum, so we're down here visiting with Paul Chelstad. We also have Gia Emery, who used to work at Uncle John's, and then Steve Hansen. He's the museum director. And Gia, you're looking like you have.
This has a lot to do with the conservatory too, where we have our listening room.
Gia, and I wanted to introduce that. So you not only worked at Uncle John's, which is why we're glad that you're here, but you're also very involved in music, and you have the Sioux City Conservatory of Music. Is that correct?
Yes.
So explain what that is and how long you've been in Sioux City.
So I wonder if this is from my time at Uncle John's, and I never connected the dots, but we do have a listening area at the conservatory where, because of how I learned to listen to music, I think it's important to share that experience with our students. It's a nonprofit music school on Pierce Street. And I think about all this imagery, Paul, and how we try to convey that too, knowing that a lot of people are stimulated visually, sometimes before they get to listen to what 3 saxophones sounds like from one person. But we have all the genres that we celebrate, even punk rock, at the conservatory. And what were you going to say, Paul?
The old record covers you have are just amazing. You have
Well, and that I believe probably, my attraction to that is because of Uncle John's, and why it's important to study genre and history. I mean, we can learn so much about everything just by listening to music, really.
Where was the first place you saw your husband?
At Uncle John Records. Not in person, but the record.
We have to give context here. So Ron Emery is your husband. He was in, is it NoFX? No. Okay, go ahead. Tell me he was in California in a punk band.
True Sounds of Liberty, TSOL. And I remember asking, Ray always did the ordering, so he would order the vinyl, and I would buy one TSOL record, and then we'd be out. And, our punk rock selection was really good at Uncle John's, but it was small scene, I guess, right? And Ed Culver's record cover, he's a famous photographer in Los Angeles. Their first EP is a famous photo of the band. It's a black and white digital image now, but it's really cool. And it's my husband playing with the rest of the band. When me and a group of friends working at Uncle John's took off in my mother's car and went to Lincoln to see TSOL at a very small venue, whereas the Red Hot Chili Peppers opened for my husband's band.
Oh my God.
And I remember being young, and Anthony was on stage with a flag skirt with nothing underneath, and I thought, this is out of control. But that was an experience, I guess, right? Yeah.
So the Peppers were opening. Not reversed.
Right. There's a thing that's kind of a funny joke behind the scenes, that if you want to become famous, you open for TSOL, which is my husband's band.
And then Steve, I went to ask each of the other two, Gia and Paul, if they have a favorite mural. Is there one here that you've liked? I don't know. It's you've had a chance to look at this. I don't know how often you come by and see them here in the months that the exhibit's been up. Do you have a favorite one, or do you have a favorite group?
It changes from day to day. It's when we had recently had the jazz photography exhibits. I was telling people that when I walk through any given time, I change my mind on which one is my favorite one. But it seems like people coming in, a lot of the people like the Kiss portion of this mural. But it's just such a rich history of rock and roll. So I just like it all right now. But when you look at even Elvis with the movie marquee above him, but then the Beatles, of course, growing up, it just evokes memories of my sisters screaming when they were listening to the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. So that evokes a very powerful memory. But then just going back, as I became self-educated more on music from the early rock and roll period, even going back to the Count Basies of the world, it's just been a fun experience. And another reason why we love to show the murals here. It connects people with their own backgrounds.
I think with what you were saying there, I have two questions left for you, Steve, before we wrap up. But I wanted to ask why it was important to have this exhibit here. So I think you kind of went in that vein. But so and Paul said this is the third time that this exhibit has been up, but why is this an important exhibit that people should come see?
Well, I think, number one, just because people relate to it for any number of reasons. Either they actually visited their store, or because of the images, people go back to their rocking years, and maybe even current years for that matter. But, with the museum, you're trying to connect people with history, with feelings, making emotional contact with them. So this is one of those exhibits that have done that. A couple of weeks ago when we had First Fridays on the plaza, I thought she was a younger mom, came in with her teenage daughter and said she was bringing her in because she wanted to show the girls what, when she was their age, what she was doing going into Uncle John's, and thought she was getting away from something. So that was a good generational moment there where mom can share with the daughters and have a good time about it. So I smile thinking about it now.
Thank you, Steve. And then one more question for you. I think you alluded to this earlier, but I know I ran into you a few weeks ago and you told me the story. So there's a panel here that was found at the orphanage, and I think Dave Bernstein had a hand in that. So that recently came here, is that correct?
Correct, yeah. It's 3 more panels that Dave had in storage, and people have been looking for them. Well, they moved the Saturday and Park stuff out. There they were. So Dave asked if we wanted them, and I said, of course we do. Reunite them with the rest of them. So very pleased. We'll have to get those up. We were looking for places to put them here, but it didn't quite work with what we're doing for this exhibit. It gives us an excuse for the next time to put them all up. And then we can build it first time all displayed together. So, and we'll have Paul come down here, maybe, even if it's in a walker, Paul, we'll have you come down here. And it might be me with a walker for that matter. But so, yeah, they're good. Paul could talk more from an artistic standpoint. The panels, I think they're kind of cool because the varnish that was used on them is crackled over. But it gives it a different feel, a different look to it. And I know artists probably are wincing over that, but I think they look pretty cool.
Okay. And then to wrap up for this edition of What's a Frequency, again, we have Gia Emery and Paul Chelstad, and I want to give you guys basically a wrap up. Like, any last impressions? We'll go to you, Gia, and then we'll let you have the last word. Paul.
I'm just honored to know Paul. I really am. Never thought that this would be a connecting dot in our friendship from, years ago to now. And I really encourage anybody that's curious about this, listening to us today, to come and see this work at the museum, because to capture the essence of his work is literally going back into a memory at Uncle John Records. And I don't think we'll ever be able to replace anything like that, ever. They tried once, though, right, on 4th Street, and I applaud anybody's efforts to do, but there's only one Uncle John Records, right? Yep.
Okay, then I guess for you, Paul, any last thoughts? Have you had encounters with people who have told you, hey, I just saw this, I never knew it was you, or any since this has been up, any anecdotes, I guess, from just people in Siouxland talking to you about this?
Yes, a few.
And I guess I get a second final question, but does it seem, so this was 78 or 79, does it seem like 45 years plus? Like, how does it seem like that is possible, that much time has passed?
This is held up really well. The front of this store looks like I did it in 1854 when the city was found. It was outside. It's alligatored, and it's like, oh my God! Feels like it's 100 years ago.
When did Uncle John's close? And I know Ray had something in the KD station that was an offshoot. I don't think it was Uncle John's proper. It was his own.
Marcia Waite bought it in I think 1998, and then I did another mural for her. That was a continuation from this till 2000, basically, and it's in the back of Buffalo Alice. In the back room, it's the Sgt. Peppery.
Yeah, and you have punk rock images there. Whereas this, that's interesting to me, and how great it would be to combine the images from this period to now to
from then
the other.
now.
Yeah.
And I guess something I should have asked this early on, but to maybe I'm completely off base here, but so for people who go into Uncle John's, there is that mural. Basically, is it the Sgt. Pepper's or maybe an expanded Sgt. Pepper's with a whole bunch of rock people?
It's 106 people or something.
Was that by you?
Yes, yeah, and I did that for Marcia in 1998. And I can't believe that was that long ago, but that was a great store.
Where's
I
the
loved it.
location of that?
It's where the diving elk is now.
Oh, yeah.
And then Ben Hunnell moved it up a block, and that was the last of Uncle John's.
Thank you, Paul, and that'll be a wrap for this edition of What's the Frequency. Thanks to my guest, Paul Chelstad. He's the artist who made the mural that's hung on the Uncle John's record store ceiling. Gia Emery, she worked at Uncle John's back in the day, and then museum director Steve Hansen, who told the story of how the murals came to the museum. And again, that exhibit will be here through October 5th at the Sioux City Public Museum in downtown Sioux City. As we move deeper into a second year for the show, thanks for being a part of our station as we work every day to tell the stories about Siouxland that inform, entertain, and expand the mind. Thanks for listening, and please join us again next week. What's the Frequency airs on Fridays at 10 a.m. and again on Sundays at 2 p.m. For Siouxland Public Media, I'm Brett Hayworth.